I hope you find this video useful. It will be all about flashcards and why they are so important. My name's Kieran Lonergan. I'm the founder of Understand IELTS. And this is what we will see in this lesson. First of all, I'll tell you a little bit my story about how I discovered flashcards. And then we'll look at why you should use flashcards. Why are they so important? And finally, who should use flashcards? Maybe they are not for you. So we'll discuss that question, and then I will give you, if you decide that flashcards are for you, I will give you a little bit of homework to do before the next video next week. Before I begin, I just want to clarify that when I say the word flashcard, what I mean is digital flashcard apps that used a spaced repetition algorithm. I won't go into the technology or the technical side of things in this video, but that is what I mean. And in my opinion, the best app for this is Anki, which is a free application that you can download for your computer and phone. So when I say the word flashcards, I mean Anki or a similar app. When I say the word Anki, I mean flashcards. So let me begin with my story. I've been teaching English practically my whole life. When I was 18, I did a gap year in Honduras teaching English. I then returned to the UK to do a degree in modern languages. After that, I became a CELTA qualified English teacher teaching in London, and I currently work for the British Council in Portugal. So I've been teaching English for a long time, and what you discover as an English teacher is that some students improve their English really quickly, but others don't improve at all. Now, at first, when I was teaching, this was just a curious fact. But when I started focusing 100% on IELTS preparation about 7 years ago, this became really important. For many students taking the IELTS test, their English simply isn't good enough. And if they don't know how to improve fast, they won't get the score that they need. And as an IELTS teacher, that became my problem. The best feeling in the world as an IELTS teacher is when your students get the score they need in the IELTS test. So I became obsessed with helping those students who seem to be stuck improve their English as fast as possible. And I kept coming back to this question. Why is it that some students improve really quickly, but others don't improve at all? My lessons were the same for both kinds of students, but the result was completely different depending on the student. So I came to the conclusion that clearly it had something to do with how that student was studying. And I became obsessed with the question of how to learn a language from the point of view of the student. And as a result, I discovered all of these amazing language learning books and blogs. I read this book, Fluent Forever, an amazing book with a really incredible system for learning languages. Also Fluent in 3 Months by Benny Lewis, who has a wonderful language learning blog. I obsessively read the I Will Teach You a Language blog, which now is called, I think, Learning by Listening, something like that. This journey really began when I did the Learning How to Learn course on Coursera, which I think is the most popular course on Coursera at the moment. And I also did the Language Warriors course on how to learn a language by Shane Dixon, as well as there were other blogs that I read as well. I basically became obsessed and got really deep into this topic of how to learn, and specifically how to learn language. Now, all these books and blogs are by people who are true experts in how to learn language. They've all learned 5, 6, in some cases, even 10 languages, and mastered the art of learning a language in months, in some cases. And every single one of them said that digital flashcards like Anki were vitally important in allowing them to improve their language skills extremely quickly. There were many other things that they did, but they all used Anki as a way to memorize vocabulary and grammar constructions and grammar corrections and that kind of thing. For example, Benny Lewis, the author of Fluent in 3 Months, said, "I've been learning languages on and off for more years than I'd like to count. Different books and websites and ways to figure out languages come and go, but only one always remains: Anki." Now, as I said before, Anki is a free flashcard application, and it's the one that I will teach you how to use in these live lessons. Gabriel Weiner, who wrote this amazing book, Fluent Forever, says, "Anki is flashcards on steroids. It drives, Anki is flashcards on steroids. It drives information deep into your long-term memory and supercharges memorization." So I was convinced. All these language learning experts said flashcards and apps like Anki were super important and can massively speed up the time it takes to learn language. So I decided to help my students set up and start using Anki to learn vocabulary and grammar. And guess what? It worked. One of my students, Lubov, I spoke to her by phone after she passed her test, and she told me that Anki had actually changed her life. And I use Anki to learn all kinds of things. And she actually posted this long message in my Facebook group, which if you can either pause the video and read this whole thing, or later you can just search for Lubov and you'll find this comment in the Facebook group. It's down near the bottom. But to save you time, I'm just going to highlight some of the things she said in this post. So she said, "Student, if you don't have time to read all the story below, please read this. Listen to your teacher, use Anki, work hard, and never give up." I took Kieran's advice and started using Anki to remember new words, idioms, and grammar constructions. I was reviewing and adding words during 1 to 2 months every day before I saw the first results. Eventually, necessary words and even sentences started coming exactly when I needed them. I'd say this definitely helped me to learn faster, yet deeper at the same time. And then she gives her arts results. So in her first test, she got 6 for listening, 7.5 for reading, 6 for writing, and 6 for speaking. And she ended up getting 8.5 for listening, 9 for reading, 7 for writing, and 7 for speaking. And in fact, she even got a 7.5 in one of the IELTS tests that she did before that final test. But she had to do the test again because she didn't get a high enough score in speaking. So a 7.5 in writing is very impressive, and she went from a 6 to a 7.5, having used Anki to improve her vocabulary and grammar. So this is all just to demonstrate that Anki does work. In other words, flashcards work. So the question remains, who should use flashcards? Well, flashcards or Anki are ideal for students who need to improve their English. Now, there are 2 kinds of students who take the IELTS test. There are those who already have an excellent level. They have a level which is sufficient for them to get the score that they need, but they just aren't familiar with the test. Those students obviously just need to spend time familiarizing themselves with the test and learning some of the important details that they need to know, but they don't need to waste time improving their English before doing the arts test. Then we have other kinds of students who make up the vast majority of arts students. And those are the people who need to improve their English. Their English isn't good enough, and if it doesn't improve, it doesn't matter how much time they spend doing arts exams and learning hacks and tips and tricks about the exams, about the arts exam. If their English doesn't improve, they just won't get the score that they need. Unfortunately, 90% of students who take the arts test are in that category. But sometimes they don't realize it and they waste too much time on exam techniques and not enough on improving their English. To discover if you are one of those students, you will need a good, honest English teacher, well, an IELTS teacher actually, who can tell you what score you would get and why, and who will be honest enough to tell you that your English isn't good enough. Super important. Also, students who have at least 6 weeks to prepare for the arts test. If your test is in 2 weeks, then it's not worth taking the time to install, set up, and learn how to use Anki, because you will not have time to see the benefits. But if your test is in a month, well, I would say 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, then it's definitely worth investing that time. Like Lubov said, at first, you won't see the results necessarily. You'll be putting in a lot of time into Anki, and but if you stick with it, you will suddenly see results. And it will make things much faster in the long run. In 3 months of studying English with Anki, you will improve much quicker than in 3 months of studying English without Anki. That's all I really wanted to talk about in this video. The hardest part I found has been convincing students that Anki is worth investing in. So I hope that this video has helped you identify whether you fit this category of students who should use flashcards. And if so, I hope it's convinced you to take the time necessary to install and start using Anki to improve your English. If that's the case, I have some homework for you. I'd like you to download the Anki app. Just type Anki into Google and it will be the first search result. And then create an Anki account, and that will enable you to synchronize the application across your different devices, which will be really useful for you. And if you have any questions, send me an email.